Hello. I didn't see you come in there. My name's Kane, and I'm trying to finish off a demo of a game that I should have submitted in October in about 33 days. The game I'm making is Clipper. It's a game where you play as an AI who brainwashes Vikings into making paperclips. Lots and lots of paperclips. Over the next 33 days, you'll get to see my declining sanity, my increasing grey hair, and my crumbling marriage. No, I'm just kidding. My wife would never leave me because I make video games about paperclips instead of getting a real job. Hopefully. Sweetheart, if you're watching this, please don't leave me. If you make games and want to watch someone suffer through the same things as you have, or if you don't make games and you want to see what it's really like, or if you're a friend of mine that I've forced to watch this video at gunpoint, come with me on this exciting journey. Now, before I begin, I should probably tell you a little bit about the game I'm trying to make and why I'm making it. The game is called Clipper, and it's called that because I couldn't think of anything better. Seriously, if you have a better name for the game, please tell me in the next 33 days. The idea for the game came about when I was in Iceland earlier this year on a holiday with my wife and some of her friends. Iceland's just this crazy place. It breaks all of your understanding of what a normal environment should look like. There's no indigenous mammals, for example. No mammals. No, it's crazy. There's no trees, and it's just very, in general, very different. The landscape feels like you've just stepped off a spaceship into some crazy alien landscape. It's really difficult to explain if you haven't been. And as I was walking around that majestic landscape, I had the same thought that most people would have, which is, this is going to be a really fun rendering problem. I should make a game about this. So I looked out over whatever majestic cliff or vista I was standing at and thought, well, what should the game be about? And so the obvious answer is Vikings. A game should be about Vikings. Should have Vikings, obviously, because they were in Iceland. They're cool. Now, when you think of Vikings, you're probably thinking fighting and drinking and all those cool things like in Valheim and God of War and all that sort of stuff. But what if we had none of those things? If you open my Steam library, you're mostly going to see automation and management games. Those are the games I like playing, so it's probably a game I'm going to enjoy making. I just really love the idea of Vikings building something. You know, just imagining all these like Vikings swarming over all the landscape, carrying things and building things and stuff. And there's going to be trains. Lots of trains. Because trains are rad. Not that there's actually trains. Fun fact, did you know that there are no trains in Iceland? Makes no sense. No trains. If I was a billionaire, my insane billionaire vanity project would be to build a pointless fast rail in Iceland. Send money now. So I knew I wanted to have a game where Vikings would be running around building stuff, but what would they be building? And why? Like lots of people, I'd been reading a lot about AI and how it's either gonna kill us all or save the world, and I came across this interesting idea called the paperclip maximizer. The paperclip maximizer to me is one of the funniest things I've heard in my entire life. The idea behind the paperclip maximizer is you have some AI that either intentionally or unintentionally has making paperclips as its highest priority. You have this thing with godlike intelligence and capabilities, and all it wants to do is convert all matter and energy in the universe into paperclips. Paperclips! I don't know why I find this funny. I think it's amazing. I think it's hilarious. So much so, I wanted to make a fucking game about it. Yeah, I just love the idea of creating this super intelligent AI that could cure cancer or like give us a post-gasty society where everyone lives like some sort of utopian Star Trek vision. But instead, no, sorry everybody, we're all getting converted into paperclips. There was even a really cool game made about this called Universal Paperclip that you should go and check out. I'd have Vikings, I'd have them in Iceland, they'd be making paperclips. Just bippity boop, make a design document, make a little paperclip, prototype things, some things moving around with the things in there, and we're job done. Not job done. It turns out designing games is really hard. I'm a pretty good programmer and I can make things appear on a screen and do all the cool things with the triangles and whatnot, but actually designing a game is really hard. So I bought some design books. Reached out to some professional, experienced game designers asking for help, and tried real hard to come up with some good ideas. I'm pretty happy with some of the stuff that I ended up coming up with. So over the next couple of days, I'm going to talk about game design a little bit more and some of the things I've learned. If you're an experienced game designer, I'm sure a lot of that stuff would be completely obvious to you. But if you're anything like me, who's a programmer, who comes at things from the other side, actually learning about the discipline of game design can be really important. So what I want to do now is just walk you through what I do all day, sitting in this room talking to myself like a madman. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a feature that I was working on just before the Christmas break, where we can record a list of commands for Vikings, assign Vikings to that command list, and then they will magically all be executed. This is something that I was thinking about for a long time, and really was something that was like stopping a lot of the design. So it was really cool to finally sit down and take a crack at it and get it working. I was pretty happy with where it was, but what I wanted to do was just open up the game fresh, having not looked at it for a week, play around with it a bit and see if there's like any last little things I could do to tune it. I hope you find this process useful. I'm not like a streaming YouTuber expert person. I don't know what's interesting or entertaining. So if it was boring, if it was interesting or exciting, please let me know and I'll do my best to accommodate to your personal wishes. Okay, so we've got the game going. Cool, all the basic stuff is there. So let's try and actually do our thing, where we're gonna like assign a Viking to this control tower, and we're gonna record a bunch of commands that are gonna get issued to the subsequent Vikings. So let's give that a go. We're gonna walk over there and occupy it. All right, and then what we want to do now is record just like a simple little like control pattern, which ends with walking to the control tower and getting some more commands. So we've done that, and then let's just like try and assign some Vikings there. So we've done that. It mostly works. Assign a couple. Some of the selection is like a little bit janky here, but like for the most part, that seems to be working. Change the cycle, and so yeah, the cool thing is like after they've gone and done their little walk, the last thing on their list of things to do is to go to the control tower and like get some more commands of things to do. So it ends up being like an infinite loop, which is like, yeah, just a really cool and useful little thing that we've got there. Okay, so it's looking all right. Still got that jank like a couple of times as I'm going to select Vikings and assign them to that control tower. Either they're not getting selected properly, or you know, we're selecting the Vikings and stuff like that. So I think like the whole selection system is like okay, like it works, it's functional, but just like everything, it's gonna need some more polish. And so with a limited amount of time, the game is trying to figure out like what are the simple things that we can do that are going to give us like the biggest bang for our buck, and are going to be like, wow, oh my god, I selected those units, that was so amazing. And like selection stuff isn't something that you would like necessarily think of as being like, holy shit, this is like the coolest thing. Like nobody makes reviews about games and it's like, you know, the selection system, that was just fucking crazy. That was wild. But it's these things where you have this intention, you're like trying to tell the game, or like any software something, you're like, fucking do this, but something stops you from doing that, and that's really frustrating, or at least for me, like it drives me completely insane. So I don't want to be contributing to that. I don't want to be like making the world worse as a result. So let's like jump in here and see exactly what's going on. So if we pull up our like selection, this is the joy of like coming back to a code base after a holiday. You just like, what is it? Who the fuck wrote this? And there's no one to blame except yourself. Best. So how the hell does this work again? We have this brainwash system. Okay, this is where we're issuing commands. Okay, update pending command queue. So this is where we like we find the mouse, and then we try and figure out like what is it that we would like the Viking to do. So abstract machine, get very much command fantasy. So this is like the meat and potatoes. So like with basically what this is doing is like you've got some Viking selected, and then you want to issue some command to that Viking or record it in a tower. What should that command be? And this is kind of like, you can think of this as like a disambiguation step. Like there's multiple things you could do at a given point. Like the most obvious thing to do is to walk somewhere, but you know, most of the time we try to do something like more interesting than that, like harvesting something or picking something up or inserting it or whatever. And so, you know, to avoid having like this giant drop down menu of like different things you can do, what I'm trying to do at the moment, and I'm really getting this sense that this is gonna break eventually, but what I'm really trying to do is have that just be magic. Like just have like with every time we're just gonna pick the exact right thing that you want to do, which is definitely gonna work. There's not gonna be any problems with that, I'm sure. What could possibly go wrong? All right, so okay, if something's carried entity. Oh. Right, so I can't remember what's going on here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna run the game, pull it up again. Oop. Cool. I'm just gonna run the game, and I'm just gonna try and find, like when I'm trying to fix a bug or I'm trying to improve something, what I really try and do is like find like one case. Like, you know, you have this general problem of like, selection's shit. That's really hard to solve. If you can be like, okay, in this particular instance, selection like was crap, it wasn't working. And it makes it like, just makes it like more manageable, more simple. Otherwise I'm gonna be like just diving through that code forever. So, alright, so let's have a look. So I started off by like walking to the control tower, occupy the control tower. Cool, he does his little animation, he sits in his top, it's like, hey guys, what's up? But then, yeah, so we were walking to the control tower. We got commands in the control tower that worked with the first guy, but then what was going on was, oh, right, I haven't actually recorded anything yet, so do that, walk to the control tower and get command commands. All right, and off we go. So, yeah, the problem I was having was, okay, so basically the problem we've got here is like the Viking that's in the control tower is like getting precedence. So I'm like hovering over here. It's like, hey, you're hovering over a Viking. You want to walk to that Viking, but like in this particular instance, like a Viking who's in a control tower is like not something that we really care about. What we care about is actually the control tower itself. So I think what we should do here is we should just have like a little, probably just have like a little check to be like, is the person who's in the command tower, like, why did he stop looking? Let's not think about that too hard. We've got this person, we've got this Viking in a control tower. We don't give a shit that they're in a control tower. What we actually want to do is we want to try and get to the control tower itself. So let's jump back into the code and see if we can figure out exactly what's going on. Okay, so we're back in our get command for entity system. So here what we want to do is, I think we have a check for like, are they a Viking? Nothing. Okay. Right, so actually what's going on here is we're hitting the Viking entity, and we're going, you know, we're doing all these checks. We're going like, are you an item? Are you a paperclip pit? Yada yada yada. And we're going, well, we've hit you, but there's like nothing, you know, that we can care here about. So what we want to do is we want to say like, hey, if you're a Viking and you're occupying a control tower, we want to know what the control tower is instead. I think we should be able to do that. I think we store the control tower. that the Viking is in. If not, then like, you know, we can add that. I think that's like not too big of a thing, and you probably know that anyway. All right, so if the control tower, occupy control tower. Okay, and let's get commands from control tower. So we kind of want to do this. We want this to somehow get the control tower here. So if it's not occupied, okay. So let's just do something trivial. So like here, like okay, equals yeah. Viking entity highly selected question mark. So then what we're going to do is we want to say if Viking dot no, I don't think I actually have anything on the Viking. So let's jump into the Viking. Okay. Carrying is that working direction. Okay. So I think what we could do is just have like a flag on here. But I just want to make sure that I haven't actually stored this somewhere else and I've like completely forgotten about it. Like again, this is just a you know, you haven't looked at the code in ages and you're like, what the fuck is this shit? So it's important to double check to make sure. Sometimes your past self is an idiot who hates you and wants you to suffer. Sometimes your past self is a genius and you're second guessing it. So always double check to make sure past self wasn't completely stupid. Alright, so we'll pull this back up. We'll go occupy control tower. So when we say to occupy control tower, what is it we do? So I think that's going to be over here in Viking command. Occupy control tower, execute control tower. Control tower, occupy. Okay, so we don't actually say anything about the Viking when we do this. What we do is we just tell the control tower there's happening, but the Viking doesn't know. So I think this is important because you'd want to, for a case like this, you don't really want to select the Viking as the destination of a brainwash. You still may want to target them, so you can be like, hey, you were in the control tower, but we don't really want you to be anymore. We wouldn't be able to keep it state. So let's jump into the Viking. We can go pub occupied control tower. Just make that optional entity. Oh, that works fine. Thanks, because we have to modify everything else because we're just deriving default here. And a constructor is like super simple. It's just like generating the name and then everything else is just a default field. So, and it's like just a nice thing to do sometimes is like have your sensible constructor to begin with, and then, you know, derive default if you can, and then as you're adding these extra fields, like most of the things you add later on when you're modifying like some component, usually those things are going to be like optional. Not always, but if you can do that, or like the things that could be trivially initialized as default, it just, again, like it just makes the refactoring so much simpler. Like, you know, I don't have any like compile errors saying like, oh yeah, you've modified this, and you know, it's the end of the world. Like, none of that shit's going. So first things first, let's make sure that when we occupy the control tower, we tell the Viking what they've occupied. So let's go Viking dot occupy control tower with some target entity. Just leave a helpful comment. And as we back over here, we go if Viking dot So what I want to do is, like, the simple thing to do, like the cheese thing to do, is just get like call it a day. But you know, that logic is, well, not necessarily, because you couldn't occupy the control tower because it's, yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's fine to just do this. So, because what you'd want to do is you'd want to go something like if let some control tower equals Viking the occupied control tower. We just want to like almost make Viking transparent. We just want to be like, hey, get the talk to the control tower, buddy. That's what we're gonna do. And then we want to pass that here. Control tower entity. Yeah. That seems reasonable. Seems reasonable. Let's give that a go. It does raise the question as well of like further on down the track, like what are the brainwashing things that you want to do to a Viking? Like if you have a Viking and then another Viking is a destination, like do you want to like attack them or like whatever? But I think for now it's probably fine. I don't know why I keep taking this guy over here. And at some point I should like, you know, lay these guys out a bit more in my beautiful environment that's just a gigantic mash. You know, but whatever. What's the control tower? Occupy the control tower. Cool. Alright, so now you're in the moment of truth. No, damn. Or is he? So this is a fun bug. If you're in a control tower, you can accidentally walk off it. So, cool. Alright, let's try that again, focusing on like one terrible bug at a time. So what's the control tower? Occupy the control tower. Now you're there. I've selected you. Still Harold the Elder. So he's the person that's in the control tower. Control tower's there. It's got commands, so it must be occupied. Still, we're thinking of that guy as like a reasonable target, so must have been done something. So let's have a looky-loo. This is going to be going wrong in either one of two places. Either we are not checking here, or, ooh, actually, this could be the problem. Is it because it's too far away? So I'm gonna walk closer first. The problem is like, so we've got this like, so what's going on here is like we have this concept of like a close action. So most actions are close action, right? Like if you wanna pick up something, like you wanna pick up a coffee cup, you can only, that was empty. You can only pick up a coffee cup if you're next to it, right? Like if you're close enough to it, you can reach it. And so the same thing goes with the game. Like you can only chop down a tree if you're next to a tree, etc. Part of like the management of the game is that your position matters, and where you are in space matters, and so that opens up all sorts of interesting logistical challenges because you want to make sure that the right Vikings are in the right place. Anyway, the reason why I think this is breaking at the moment is because it's too far away. I could be wrong, but let's see. So obviously, so that is, we can see straight away. occupy control tower. So I think we can see here. Okay, no. So there he thinks it's okay. But here, oh, potentially because he's he's higher up. I have a thought. What if we just so part of what's going on here is like, so if we take a step back for a second and we go like, okay, how are we even determining like what we're hovering on, right? Like how do we even know like what is, I suppose, being selected, what's going on the cursor? So how that's happening is that's working with a we're tracing a ray, right? We're basically, if you can imagine, like a line, yeah, like a pen. If you're like an experienced game developer, you're like, oh, shut the fuck up, I know this already. But like, whatever. We're basically tracing a line, a ray from the camera through the screen to where the mouse is located on the screen. And there's some fancy complicated math that makes that happen. But basically what that lets us do is that lets us take the position of the mouse cursor, which is on the screen, and pretend that the mouse is inside the world, and that lets us test things. Check if we're hovering over things. The problem, of course, is that the inherent problem is that you've got this like 2D cursor, this 2D selection system in a 3D world, and so things can be behind other things. So there's a bit of magic that goes on to determine like what, in the case of us selecting multiple things, like what is the thing that we're actually selecting. Sometimes it's just the closest thing to the camera, but sometimes it's not. So let's have a look. So yeah, we're trying to get the mouse position in the world. Destination is game entity and mouse cursor. Okay. So here we go. What we're looking for is hover over. So this is the hovering system is like a traditional, ACS system, runs over frame, operates over a bunch of entities and stuff like that. But basically what it's doing is it's every frame is checking to see like where the cursor is in the world. It's doing that ray tracing thing I thought of, I was just mentioning before. And then if it finds something that is under the cursor, it will insert a component into it called like hovered. Now at the moment, this is sort of like an exclusive thing, right? Like there can only be one. It's sort of a singleton. And that means that it does make it really tricky to like resolve these ambiguities, because because there's situations in which you might have multiple things that have been selected and you want to actually choose. So yeah, maybe okay, this is what I suspected. So we actually have like a special case, which is to look for Vikings, because like most of the time when you're pointing the mouse around, you want to be selecting Vikings. That's like one of the things we try and do the most. So we try and make the selection system really like, Viking friendly. So yeah, there's a couple of different things we can do. Like, yes, we could like potentially like return a list of all the things you hovered over. But what if we didn't? So I think instead what we should do is we should go this little check. What we could do up here we can just like call the same function again, but instead of using the destination entity of Viking, we can just like be like, hey, you selected the control tower. Like, it's kind of cheesy, but like maybe it's kind of good. Let's see. So if you chose a Viking, and because that's the other thing as well, is like if you've chosen a Viking, then there's kind of like nothing else we can do anyway. So let's just check this first. Shooting for coverage. All right. So let's chuck you up there. Up you go. Now, okay. So now, if we hover over the Viking that's in the control tower, we can basically treat it as if it's the control tower, which is kind of what you want anyway. Like if you're pointing at this thing, you're like, I want you to talk to that thing. That works well. All right, let's try and set up like a simple control path thing. Right. Regenwald the goose. Ragenwald. All you fucking Vikings. March. All right. So I think they're going. There's also this like really weird like lighting bug that's going on at the moment, so it makes them all look like kind of washed out and white, which is like really weird and not like a thing that we're going for, but we'll fix that one next. But yeah, I think that works well. I think that's like a much better system. There you have it, an exciting trip down the process of looking at something you finished a couple of weeks ago that you thought was good, then you realized it had some bugs in it, then you couldn't remember how you implemented it, so then trying to fix it took longer than it should have, all the while not knowing how to use OBS or anything like that. I hope you found that interesting. I hope you found it exciting. You know, hopefully the pace and excitement of these videos is going to pick up more as we go on, and as I get increasingly more close to the deadline and terrified of all the terrible decisions I've made in my life. Yeah, if you have any suggestions on how this could be more interesting or something else you'd like to see, let me know. I would love to make your dreams come true. So there we have it. Day 1 in the can. That wasn't that hard. Thanks for watching all the way through. Oh, not really, because I still have to figure out how to like edit this video. I have no idea what I'm doing. But for the purposes of this video, we're done. But before you go, if you like this video, like the game I'm making, or just generally feel sorry for me, send me some money. I mean it. It'd be really helpful. I haven't had a full-time job for the last couple of years while I've been trying to get my indie game career off the ground. So if you want to spend a couple bucks a month or maybe more to support the things I'm doing, check out my Patreon link below. There's some cool things in there that you might be interested in. There's cool things in there like access to weekly builds of the game, Discord, you can get source code access to the game, you can get your credits in the game, all that kind of cool stuff. So if those things sound appealing to you, jump on over to the Patreon. Thank you. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.